Control. What is it? Why do we feel the need to exert it on others and especially on ourselves? Where does it come from? And what does it really mean to let go of it? Hi, I'm Miriam and I teach emotional intelligence skills. Welcome to EI for Life. So, control means basically that you know what's happening next. Where does it come from? This is very important. From a very early age on, when we are born, we need to be loved. Otherwise, we die, literally. So, as babies, there has to be somebody who takes care of us. We need to be loved, to be fed, and to be taken care of, cuddled even, and stuff like that. If there's nobody to take care of us, we die. So this is how it starts, and it's very important to understand this. There's a part of our brain. So there's the conscious mind, that's the thoughts you think, that's you. And then there's a non-conscious mind. That's the largest part, really the much, much larger part of your brain. And that's what I like to call the mind. Some people call it ego. Some people call it the unconscious or non-conscious or subconscious, whatever you prefer. But it's the part you cannot actually, that's not really you. It's the part that works automatically. And this part has learned what it is, what to do, and how to keep you alive from day one. And lesson number one was we need other people to be alive, just to live. Not to thrive, not to be happy, just to live. That was lesson number one, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply ingrained in the mind. Okay, so far so okay. Now, society kind of hijacks this. Control is something we learn from other people. They exert control over us. We are trained into systems of control, and we are trained to control ourselves. What do I mean by this? It starts literally even before you reach kindergarten, when your parents won't let you eat when you are hungry, but feed you at meal times. You learn to control your hunger or your thirst, or later in school when you're only allowed to use the bathroom when it's break time, you learned that it's necessary for you to control your body and to either ignore your needs, suppress them, somehow handle them, which is really just another word for control. So you can live with other people. This is the important part. This is what we learn, that we need to be able to control ourselves to live with other people. And other people try to control us. They try to make us do stuff that makes them happy. And they get us to do that by praising us or by punishing us. They get us to do that by exerting emotions on us. So when we feel somebody being angry, even if they don't say anything or act out their anger, we feel it. So we are exposed to these emotions. And that's how we learn that they control us. We also learn that we're also supposed to control others. When we are working in groups, in teams, we are supposed to be responsible for what other people do. We are even supposed to be responsible for how they feel. Are they motivated? Are they doing a good job? Blah, 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 blah. When you become a supervisor or run your own company, you might actually feel the need to be responsible for other people's emotions, which is all a whole bunch of nonsense. But it all comes down to this idea of control. Now, here comes the really important part. You may have heard that it's important to let go of control because control, it doesn't work. You cannot really control other people. You can manipulate them. Any kind of control is actually manipulation. You may have heard that something like you may have been raised to think that you are not really allowed to control others. Instead, you're supposed to focus your control on yourself. So, for example, let's say you feel angry and you might have learned to let out your anger on somebody else. So you shout at people because you learned this is how you can control their behavior. If you shout at them, they will do better next time. Or you learn to internalize that anger and instead be nice to everybody while the anger eats slowly away at you, or you actually take actions to harm yourself, whether it's punishing yourself with guilt and shame, or whether you literally punish yourself by biting your nails, or eating food you don't actually need, or starving yourself to death meticulously. It doesn't matter. This is you having learned to exert control on yourself and on others. And the underlying belief is still the fear of the mind that if we are not living with other people in this system of constant control, we're going to die. So when you try to let go, no matter what kind of form this letting go takes, your mind freaks out like crazy. You cannot calm your mind down with words, which is how we learn to interact with others, and how often we learn to talk to ourselves. Soothe yourself with words. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work that way. The mind doesn't work that way. It's primal fear, and it wants you to stay safe and alive. That's the main goal. And living with other people is how we stay safe and alive. That's what your mind thinks. And if that means, suppressing everything you want and living a shit life you hate, go for it. Okay, so the mind is automatic. I'm exaggerating a little bit here. The mind is mostly automatic. It's your fears, your doubts, the stories you tell, the stories you learn from other people that keep you exactly where you are. Now, how do you get away from that? What's very important to understand is there are many, many paths, and most of them are also systems of control. When you do mindset work, so when you replace thoughts you no longer want with new ones, you say your mantras, you are exerting control on yourself. When you change your habits and your routines, so you pick healthy routines, you are exerting control on yourself. When you learn wonderful new ways of planning your future, of setting goals, that's you exerting control. You try to control the future. That's what planning is. That's what any kind of coaching program that has, steps you're supposed to follow, that's all control, 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 control. Now, why am I telling you this? Why am I, bursting this wonderful bubble you had? Why am I telling you that even self-development and personal development and even spirituality is just a new system of control? Why am I bursting that bubble? Because when you know what it is, you can use it consciously. And that makes all the difference. I'm not saying stop doing mindset work. I'm not saying stop being a spiritual person. I'm not saying stop going to your coach. Absolutely go for it. Because here's the important part. Your mind is freaking out. It needs systems of control at first. It needs to be eased into what the alternative, the real alternative to control truly is. Because if you try to go straight to that end, your mind will freak out. Systems of control are soothing to the mind because it recognizes them. So when you replace anger with emotional hygiene techniques, your mind goes, yes, okay, I can deal with that. When you replace unhealthy habits with new healthy ones, your mind is like, okay, I'm totally on board. So you keep doing that. When you replace old thought habits with new mindset habits, new affirmations, new mantras, whatever you wish to call them, your mind is also easier on board. The cut is not so strong and your mind doesn't have to freak out because it's still systems of control. So these new techniques, these new forms of control, which you choose deliberately, knowing that they are forms of control, are a wonderful step to keep your mind feeling safe. Because that's what you gotta do. You gotta feel safe. You cannot change when you are terrified. Your mind cannot form new neural pathways when it's in the throes of panic attack. So you gotta keep that part of your mind safe. And that part of your mind also learns through experience. So the more safe you feel in all kinds of different situations, the more your mind knows it can trust you. So if it triggers fear, it knows you will take care of the mind. If it triggers anger, it knows you will actually take the time to experience that anger. You will put on the music and you will dance like a crazy person to feel the anger, or you stomp home experiencing the anger. When your mind learns like this through actual experience that it's safe to think and feel anything and you're still there, you don't go numb, you don't try to blame other people. You don't tell stories about how everything's their fault. But instead, you just see the emotion for what it is. It's an emotion right here in the moment, and you stay with it. Then your mind relaxes. So, whatever current control mechanism you are in, whether you call it self-development, spirituality, I've done them all, so totally understand. Just understand it's perfect, it's necessary, it's good for your mind, it helps you relax. All right. Now, what's the next step? So, the alternative to control is actually the now. Being yourself, so that's the part that's really you, not the mind, the part that's really you. In the moment. So not next year, not last week, right now, literally this second, and then the next second, and then the next second. This part of you always knows exactly what you want to do. We often call it intuition. I find the term a little bit limited because when we say intuition, people often will think about big choices. Should I marry this person? Should I take that job? Should I move to this city? And yeah, your intuition also knows the answers to those questions. Yes, absolutely. But it's much, much more than that. It tells you exactly what to do right here, right now. And that can be anything. It can be sitting on the couch, looking out the window. It can be going to the shop at 8 p.m. and buying the last bunch of bananas. Seriously, I did that yesterday. It can be going to the bathroom because we gotta go to the bathroom. Seriously, anything teeny tiny, anything huge, any time you know exactly what you want to do next, that's your intuition, that's you. And that knowledge only exists in the here and now. It doesn't exist for the future. So letting go of control means letting go of the future. It means understanding that the past got you here, but that's it. It's not more than that. And instead coming back to the now again and again and again. Now, there are chances that while you watch this, your mind is already kind of screaming at you, which is perfectly normal, because when this is news to you, first you know it, and then the mind screams at you. Then you sit down and understand what I just explained to you. What does that mean? You can journal about it if you find it helpful. You can just sit and think back over moments in your life when you did exert control over others, over moments right here, right now, when you have adopted new forms of control that are probably more helpful to you than the old ones, which is a good thing. Just see them as what they are. That's understanding. Actually thinking of examples in your life and then paying attention over the next few days when you try to exert control. So when you feel like eating a muffin in the morning, but your routine says now you're having muesli. When you feel like sleeping in, but your routine says now it's time for yoga. Anything like that. So the first impulse, that's your intuition, and the other, that's your mind trying to get back into control. So just notice that. Follow the mind if you need to. Follow the mind if it feels good. Stick to your routines by all means. Because here's the part that's really important. When you try to force your mind to stop being afraid, it's not going to work. What you want to do is you want to soothe the mind again and again and again. So do whatever it takes. If that means exerting control in a direction that is helpful to you, do that. Come back to yourself, understand that you are the only person, the only life you have control over. And take a lot of deep breaths. And then what happens next? While you do that, when you are relaxed and you are calm, you will notice that it's actually quite easy to listen to that inner voice and just do what you feel like doing, what it tells you to do next, no matter what that is. The only reason why it's difficult for you in the first place to do what this inner voice is saying is because what it wants you to do is almost never what other people around you have taught you is how you lead life, how you are successful, how you can be happy, which usually means how you're making me happy. So these are all stories that your mind was trained on and that your mind throws at you when you try to do what you really want to do. It could be something as simple as you feel like going to bed at 8 p.m. but your mind says, oh, It's too early. Seriously, how lazy are you? No, 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 no. We have to stay awake. So the mind becomes controlling and makes you read a book. And not just a few pages. No, no, no. It makes you read it until midnight. So, true story. And just notice these moments. The more you become aware of them, the more you understand that this is your mind on autopilot and it's trying to keep you alive. It's seriously this super, super fear-based part of you. The more you relax into it, the easier it becomes to hear your inner voice, the louder that voice becomes and the stronger the connection becomes. And at some point you will realize that, wait a sec, all my personal development was just a different form of control. And when you do that, so I'm telling you this right now, but that doesn't mean that you actually have the insight. The insight comes from the inside. And when that happens, the systems of control fall away. There's still the mind shouting at you. Sometimes it's just talking, but it's quiet. It's in the background and you can very easily ignore it. And that is when control simply no longer becomes a question, a word that matters to you anymore. That's when it's no longer a part of your life. So, you'll get there. One step at a time. And if those steps are right now still very controlled, that's okay too. Take care of yourself. Be kind to your mind. If you like this video, hit like. Super motivating for me. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I do eventually get around to answering them. Might take me a few days, but I get around to it. And if you have any questions about emotional intelligence skills, please post them. I love getting questions. This video was inspired by a question from a loved one. Hi. Lots of love to you and to everybody else who watches it. All right. And I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.